So next, we're just going to keep rolling, and we're going to hear from California industry leaders about building teams, companies, and the future of cannabis. I'm so pleased to introduce Al Harrington, the CEO of Viola. Al is the founder of premium cannabis brand Viola. Prior to Viola, Al played an MBA for 16 seasons. His company is named after his grandmother who found healing through cannabis, and Viola is a purpose-driven brand rooted in giving back to minority communities. Their focus is to empower minority ownership by creating a coalition of minority investors who own and operate the company. To date, Viola has committed over $500,000 to partner with, fund, and guide 6 applicants through phase 1, as well as 20 applicants through phase 2 of the social equity program in Los Angeles. So welcome, Al. We also have Salwa Ibrahim, the co-founder of MKSI Investments. Salwa is an industry pioneer who has spent decades successfully founding, leading, and supporting companies across every aspect of the cannabis industry, from agriculture to advocacy to private equity, real estate, retail, and beyond. At MKSI, Salwa and her husband lend expertise, network capital, and experience to cannabis companies such as the Cookies flagship dispensaries in downtown Oakland, Cannacraft, and Guild Extracts. In the challenging regulatory environment of 2011, Salwa co-founded Bloom, a beloved Oakland neighborhood dispensary that grew to become a $14 million annual operation, serving over 1,000 patients a day, making it one of California's highest volume medical cannabis dispensaries at the time. Welcome, Salwa. We also have Mike Beaudry, the founder and CEO of Herbl. Beginning in early 2016, Mike founded Herbl with the idea of bringing collaborative solutions to a complex and transitioning industry. Herbl has become one of California's largest cannabis distributor and supply chain solutions company, servicing more than 850 storefront and non-storefront retail licenses. Herbl's team is composed of distribution and retail experts across California with extensive experience in large-scale global supply chains. In early June of this year, Mike's team partnered with Blue Yonder to implement one of the world's most sophisticated supply chain platforms, bringing the same technology and operation used by major corporations like FedEx and Nike to the cannabis space. Welcome, Mike. We also are joined by AnnaRae Grabstein, Chief Compliance Officer at NorCal Cannabis. NorCal Cannabis is a vertically integrated cannabis company with licensed cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, and retail businesses, where AnnaRae leads public affairs, cannabis compliance and licensing, corporate social responsibility, legal and organization development for the company's diverse cannabis assets. Prior to NorCal, Ms. Grabstein was CEO of Steep Hill Lab, the first cannabis laboratory in the United States, and a cutting-edge startup where she worked, with over 300 dispensaries, cultivators, and product developers. Welcome, AnnaRae. And last but not least, this session will be moderated by Yvette McDowell of Yvette McDowell Consulting, who is an experienced lawyer with 30 years of municipal government experience. She provides consultation to city and county municipal governments on proposed regulation directly related to the cannabis industry, as well as the creation and correct implementation of social equity plans. Her work as a consultant is to educate those in power and make sure that regulation is tolerant and its impact is inclusive of the entire community through social equity. So welcome, Yvette, AnnaRae, Mike, Salwa, and Al. Yvette, we'll let you take it away from here. Thank you all so much for being here.
All right. Thank you, Aria. Good morning, everyone. And I want to say good morning to my panelists in particular. Let's have a conversation, folks. That's what this is all about. So to get this started, because we have a short amount of time and I want to get as much from you as I can, and I know the audience wants to get as much from you as I can, I want you to think about 2020. Look at it. It's thrown us a lot of unexpected challenges, and those challenges are directly impacting you, your businesses. So I want to know, what are some of the creative solutions that you've had to come up with in, let's say, the last 6 months to keep your business, your team, or your family moving forward? So AnnaRae, I'll start with you.
Thanks, Yvette, and hello to everybody. I see lots of friends out there today, and people I've worked with over the years. So it's great to be a part of this conversation. You know, I look at 2020 as bringing to the table how important it is for our work and our company family to be treated truly like family. It's like we have all been dealing with sustained trauma, whether it be dealing with a global pandemic, dealing with incredible injustice and political strife in our communities. Here in Santa Rosa, where I'm calling in from today, it's just fire after fire, and I know people are dealing with that too. And what we need to be doing as leaders is creating a space for empathy in our companies and understanding and checking in with the people who work inside of our four walls, because it doesn't matter how much you care about your work if your home life or your family is falling apart or feels really unstable. We need to support each other. So I think that that's really what 2020 has been about for me, is figuring out like creative ways that we can do that. We just this week sent out our fire check-in survey to our staff again, and this was now the third time that we've sent it out in 2020, just checking on people to see if they're safe and if they need anything and if they've been evacuated, or finding out which staff members are open to providing places for other staff members to come and stay if they need a place. And it's been absolutely incredible to see how much people want to be engaged in that way. So I want to hear from other folks, but what I really think is that what 2020 is about is like realizing that the people that we spend our day with are our family and need to be treated that way. It's really important part.
Absolutely. Thank you. It sounds like you're taking that holistic approach of placing people first and then things. And that's fantastic to hear. Salwa, let's hear from you.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I agree with AnnaRae 100%. It's true, especially in the retail side. We spend so much of our time and our days working with each other and being around each other, and effectively, your work family is that, an extension of your real family. I would also say the one thing that I've learned throughout 2020 is leadership, and how to basically realize that for my staff that I work for them and not the other way around, and checking in with them and asking them how I can serve them, how I can make life easier for them. If they need a day off, if they need COVID a little bit easier, whether it be at the store or at home, it's really checking in and making sure that they understand that they effectively, I work for them. And I would say that any problems that they have is really a symptom of my leadership. And if I have an expectation that they're not meeting or something like that, it's a really reflection on me and how I'm communicating with them. And so just really trying to be more of a support for them on the day-to-day.
Absolutely. It sounds like that old saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's what I'm hearing coming from you, which is great to hear moving forward. Mr. Harrington, you are up next, sir.
Yeah, so for me, first of all, what these two ladies just said, I'm definitely agreeing with all of that. For me, and I just feel like my organization and my family, it just really was the time for us to the world stopped, right? And it allowed us to sit around and realize what was really important. And what was really important was people. You know what I mean? We're realizing through the Black Lives Matter movement and different things like that, because the world has stopped, all these things are now important, and it's given us the time to actually start making some changes and have real conversations around these issues that we're having in our country. And, for me, it's been a blessing in disguise, because, for me, I felt like I was moving so fast that there was a lot of things that was, slipping through the cracks and I didn't even know it. But, being able to, go through this pandemic and, allow me to sit and realize what's really important is definitely going to make me a better person, make my business better, and everybody around me better. So, for me, this year obviously has been a lot of strife and stress, but for me, it's been a blessing. And, I'm going to take advantage of this time. And, to everyone's point, we're rebuilding people. And, this is a very important time for us, and we have to just continue to build on it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I'm hearing a common theme between you panelists here, that people first, and then money, and then things. And that is what is so important. And I think this pandemic has brought that to light, that no matter how much you accumulate financially, that if you don't have life or your loved ones are suffering, it doesn't mean a doggone thing. So it's really great to hear that. Mike, let's hear from you.
Thanks, Yvette. Yeah, I certainly support what was said ahead of me. You think of 2020, looking back at this year is going to be an interesting one. You've had pandemics and fires and riots and civil unrest and now an election coming. I mean, it's just been drinking from the fire hose. We had a situation, you talk about challenges in the business. We opened a new site in Goleta, California, late February. We all know when the pandemic started. And we actually opened a new site with a new team, with a new technology. And then like probably 2 weeks in, we had the pandemic hit, which then meant move a lot of people out of the building, and reassess basically how we did everything. And one of the things I think we did pretty well is echoing what was already said. We spent a lot of time listening to our team, and of a couple of hundred people on the team, I think about 100 at this point are working off site. So we had to really do a lot of adjustment, and part of that adjustment was listening to the team and figuring out ways in which we could continue to operate at the highest level with the challenges that were in front of us. And really a very, very tall order, but the team really pulled together. It's been a fascinating human experiment to watch this unfold. We're in a pretty good space today. We've, for lack of a better word, we've adjusted to this, post-pandemic business life. You can see it on this call with all the folks working with home backgrounds. So, I think that putting the people first has in the challenges, and there'll be probably more ahead for sure, because 2020 is not over. Putting the folks first on the team and really getting their input and everything that we do is going to be very meaningful for the outcome of this year.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And carrying on with this theme, because I'm hearing again a commonality of putting people first, which should always be in any business, people first. Talk about your highest vision then for your cannabis business now that people are being put first. I mean, why does your company really exist, and what do you hope to achieve and contribute as we move forward? That's going to be critical. So let's just take that in the same order.
Thanks, Yvette. Purpose and impact, I think, can really drive business success. And I think for myself, as someone who's worked in cannabis for over 15 years, and the people inside of my company, and that's what we're talking about, like, we love cannabis. And we believe that cannabis can be a force for good, and that it can create opportunity for people and communities, and create economic success in ways that prohibition never could. At the same time, the transition from an unregulated, more wild and rebellious culture that existed in California to what we are now operating in under Prop 64 has created a lot of displacement as well. And so, I mean, why we exist is a really hard question. But what I want to say is that I think that we're existing to create opportunity to really change the stigma and change the conversation around what cannabis can be. And I personally am on a mission to prove that by managing from purpose and managing with a true north in terms of my own personal leadership, that can ultimately leverage into business success. I also want to just call out that one of the things that has been incredibly impactful for us as a Northern California cannabis company is how so many of the hundreds of people that we employed are people that have been displaced from the traditional cannabis market, and that now we get to create opportunities for real employment inside of our four walls. And that's something that that is a core value of what we're trying to accomplish. So
right. So it sounds like your contribution is bringing people into work, making sure they're healthy, they're able to eat, able to feed their families.
Absolutely. And also bringing amazing cannabis to the people. We've been doing it for a long time, and we really care about the products and the brands we bring to the market. And we couldn't do it without the plant. So creating opportunities in that way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Salwa.
Thank you for that question. Yeah. I would say our highest purpose and like our major goal in starting our companies was when we were young, it was never an option to have cannabis be a career or something that you could share with, um, some of the people in your family if you're more conservative, things like that. And so as an activist early on, it was really important to me to change the dialogue about cannabis. And then from there, becoming an entrepreneur, I really wanted to have a career in cannabis. I didn't want this to be, I wanted to be something I can do forever for my whole life, because to AnnaRae's point, it's like we love the plant. And in building our companies, we were always trying to navigate, how do you make these companies and these jobs sustainable, so then that way like people can be a part of this long ride with you. And so we've done that through multiple different ways. We've expanded throughout the supply chain. We were the first company in the American to go public on the American Stock Exchange. And when we did that, we allocated stock to all of our staff because we wanted everybody to participate in that. And lessons were learned there. And that's kind of what we're doing, is like, we're just trying to figure out, again, how to just have the most sustainable path forward for our companies and the people who are there. And we're super proud to have had a lot of our staff be with us and move with us through multiple different companies for 6, 7, 8, 9 years now. But as far as like the overarching major goal is, cannabis is a healing plant. With all the civil unrest and everything that's happened in 2019, 2020, I could not imagine going through this year without cannabis or having steady access to cannabis. It has been my saving. It saved me mentally, it saved me emotionally, it saved my marriage, it saved me as a mother. And just having access to cannabis is a beautiful thing. And I think the more we have it be accessible to everybody else, other people can find healing in plant medicine. And then taking that from, Northern California across the country. And then really what our sights are set on, expanding and being able to build these types of industries in countries that are just now starting to understand the benefits.
Thank you so much for that. I really like that human element that you put to your story there, with that, about all of the other problems that are going on, that could be your marriage or whatever it is, and how cannabis is a healing force for a lot of that, not just to get high, as a lot of people believe, but also to really help with the healing aspect of what people are going through. So that's really great to see. Al, you're here in sunny Southern California. So let's hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, for me, it's the 3 Ps. And, this is, in our mission statement, it's plant, people, and purpose. For me, the most important thing is the plant, right? The plant is what's bringing us all together. It's the reason why we're here. I feel like, if everybody smoked a joint every day, the world would be a better place, right? And when you think about the people, is the people we employ, is the people that we're affecting every day. We're changing the stigma, and we're giving them alternative ways to medicate themselves in a safer manner than, a lot of these pharmaceutical prescription drugs and different things like that. And then purpose for me is obviously is my passion, right? Economic empowerment is what's missing in my community, right? And when you think about the way that cannabis destroyed our community, now is this new $1 billion industry, and we have no inclusion, is one of the issues that I have. And what I'm trying to do is use my company as a platform to create, opportunity, for people of color. And, I feel like, we deserve to have a significant seat at the table because of the history of cannabis and the way that it affected our community. So, those are the 3 things that, I stick to. Once again, plant, people, and purpose. And, we are going to continue to try to use our platform to, educate, empower, and just create opportunities for people of color so that we can benefit from this industry. Because in my opinion, it's a generational wealth at risk. If you look at the history of the world, other industries, rice, sugar, cotton, the lottery, liquor industry, people of color was right there. We pioneered a lot of those industries. And at this point in 2020, we don't own any of it. So I just feel like this is a significant time for our people. And, I want to be one of the people that usher more people of color entrepreneurs into the space so that we can have a significant seat at the table and that we can use this plant and the money that we make to change our communities for the better.
Absolutely. I think what you said, we could spend a whole day talking about a lot of those issues, with the different types of genres that go on, like you said, sugar, coffee, cotton, whatever it is. That could be a whole day. So the 3 Ps, I really like hearing that moving forward. Mike, let's hear what you're doing.
All right. First of all, cheers to that, Al. That was really well put. From a vision, Yvette, the idea of Herbl was born in my head 5+ years ago. And part of it, I think, was certainly passion that Al talks about. But for me, it also was born from the fact that I had a lot of neat opportunities throughout my career in different size companies. And I always felt, I always had my share of complaints about those companies. And I always, at this point, I felt like I'd start something that created a culture and created a company that people would really want to work at. We're on that journey. That's not a simple thing, but it was a really big part of the purpose. We have a purpose statement at Herbl that says the goal is to improve lives by enabling access to high quality compliant cannabis. We put together a supply chain team that has done this at significant scale in other industries, and the idea was to come here and listen a lot. I spent 2+ years prior to launching Herbl on the ground in California full time, building relationships, listening, and trying to model out something that I felt would work well in this environment. And I was the kid in high school who was dealing joints. So to Al's point, I started at a pretty young age, having a joint a day, maybe more. So there's also an opportunity, I think, for the businesses here, echoing what Al said, creating opportunities. I think there's a real career growth opportunity that lies in this industry for an enormous amount of people. We are certainly in the first inning. If you consider alcohol prohibition, 1933, I consider the beginning of, legalization, at least in California of 2018. We're only in 2020. There's a long road ahead and tremendous opportunity to have folks come into the companies, into the industry, learn a lot, and really create a great career for themselves.
Fantastic. That sort of keeps the conversation moving in the next question that I have. You've all touched on your philosophy. I think that's come across pretty clear. And in keeping with the theme of people first, always people first, I've heard opportunity, responsibility, giving back, access. Tell me about teams and partnerships in this new industry as it pertains to your philosophy and the things that you've already said. How do you build teams? How do you build lasting partnerships? What is that like for you? AnnaRae, you want to take that one?
Oh, always putting me on the hot seat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that there's been a movement in organizational development over the past few years to talk about why building a team based on people who are culture fits is not the right philosophy, because we are not striving to create sameness. And I really believe that. I think that the way that you build a successful team is by having a lot of different types of people at the table. And that what that's going to do is it's going to be able to create a diversity of ideas and perspectives that will drive innovation and resiliency to solve complicated problems. And so within the context of what that looks like, of when I'm working to build a team inside of our own company, what that looks like is making sure that that we are not trying to only hire people that are just like ourselves, but that we're trying to hire all different types of people, that that when we're making decisions, once that team is built, that we have a diversity of perspectives at the table when we're trying to work on solving problems. So at a high level, I think that that's really the key. I think another thing is that there's been a lot of talk over the last couple of years as the cannabis industry has taken off about people coming from outside the industry with all of this conventional industry expertise. And one thing I want to say is that more and more as companies grow, it's true that we are looking for subject matter expertise in certain things like cost accounting or HR management or very specific cultivation skills or whatever it is that it may be. But what I have been finding is that more and more I'm getting to bring in people that do have cannabis experience, and that has a tremendous value because this is a very unique space and the challenges that we face are unique. And I don't think that the purpose and the plant, which is so critical to driving forward our industry, is necessarily carried forward as much with people that don't have experience in cannabis. So I want to just say that as a hopeful thing for people that feel like if you have cannabis experience, that's not good. And I do not think that's true. So yeah, I'd love to hear from other people as well.
Absolutely. I'm loving hearing diversity, inclusiveness. I think that is so important in this industry. And so, Salwa, as we move forward, sort of in this theme of people first, what does that look like to you when we're talking about teams, partnerships?
Absolutely. I think that for us, we have, first of all, AnnaRae, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for saying that. I think that everything you said is a really, really good, strong point. Diversity is extremely important, and that is how you get well-rounded plans and teams, and like be able to grow and basically tackle all of these problems and hurdles that are thrown at you that, you know, are the first time for all of us. And we all have to put our heads together and think of paths forward. For us, I think that we have the luxury of having been in this industry for a while, and we have had the opportunity to kind of put our money where our mouth is and create companies that really do provide opportunities for our staff to grow and become leaders in their own right. They have the ability to start a project, and basically, because we are a small team, lead the entire project from A to Z, which is with our resources, which is an opportunity a lot of people don't necessarily get. Again, I think just having an area where you are inviting to different types of people and culture, you are supporting diversity, and you are creating an area where it's like a sustainable path forward, you're just naturally going to get talented people that are coming to you. And I agree with AnnaRae that I think cannabis experience is super important. It's nuanced. We've seen a lot and we've learned a lot from our history, and that has given us a path to sustainability.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So, Al, again, it goes out to you, teams, partnership, your philosophy around building. What do you do? What do you do?
I guess I'm kind of lucky, right? Being that I come from a team sport background, right? I know how important team is. And, you know, when you build a championship team, you know, you have to have players that actually complement one another, right? I think that also in business, you owe it to your business, your shareholders, to build a best-in-class organization, right? But the one thing in cannabis that I think that in the beginning, I remember when I first came in, I remember when I would go into a lot of meetings with investors and stuff, and they would talk so much trash about the weed guys, right? The guys that have been growing in the industry, they don't know anything, they can't be business savvy, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, at the end of the day, these guys are self-made millionaires, right? So to me, they have unbelievable talent, you know? And for me, I think that the way that you have success in this industry is you have to marry the two worlds, right? You need the corporate structure, right? Because of where we're going, but you need the culture guys, because they know what it takes. They know what it takes to build these brands. You know what I'm saying? Because they've been doing it for years and years and years. And, you know, I feel like a lot of those meetings that I was in, all those companies that were bringing in, you know, the guy from beer and from Coca-Cola and all these things that come in and sell weed, those companies aren't around anymore. You know what I'm saying? But the companies that kept true and people that were true to the real culture, they're still around. You know what I mean? And they're making noise with their companies. So for me, the way I try to do my organization is I obviously we have some corporate people, but I really like to invest in the culture, and let's coach them up. because I remember when I was a rookie, I wasn't that good. I wasn't good enough to play on the court, but my coaches coached me. And next thing you know, I was one of the top 100 players, for a 10-year span. So I firmly believe in, marrying the two worlds, tapping into the cannabis culture and coaching people up. Like I said, they the ones that put their lives at risk to even create this opportunity. And for us now to say that they don't know anything and blah, 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 just doesn't make sense. And like I said, I respect the hustler that made $1 million on the streets compared to somebody that made it, other ways, or, parents' money and all that other stuff. So that's just how I feel about that.
Absolutely. I appreciate you bringing those points out, because it is so critical that we know that people that come from less profitable backgrounds or less privileged, there's some smart people out there. I know that I have met moving forward. So you're absolutely right. Again, with that theme of people, diversity, inclusion, this is what we're looking at. And so, Mike, let's hear a little bit about your philosophy as it pertains to the team building, partnerships. What are you looking for? What are you doing?
A lot of similarities, Yvette. AnnaRae mentioning the team, we call it a hybrid team internally at Herbl. And, it's interesting because we really are this odd hodgepodge of folks who, several of us worked at large corporations at one point in our careers, and we dub ourselves corporate misfits. We also worked at small companies. We're also been entrepreneurs. But the one thing that I think is really, really important, and I just don't think it'll ever not be important in this industry, is to have that hybrid team, is to have folks who really understand this industry. There's a legacy here that is unlike any other thing that I've personally been part of in business. And I don't ever think it should be ignored. I think if you look at the makeup of the Herbl team today, it demonstrates that throughout. If you look at our account management team in the field, every one of them has deep experience in cannabis, throughout our purchasing, throughout our warehouse operations, our leadership team. One of the early decisions I made was to bring 1 or 2 people onto the business that actually were not from a traditional background. They were from the legacy side of the business, and it became very, very important then. And it's 4+ years later, it's equally as important. So I think it is super important, to what was said ahead of me, that the legacy aspect of that remains. I don't think a corporate company could move here and just not have the deep expertise of this industry and be successful. Al pointed out that some have come and some have gone. I think we'll see more come and go. I just don't think it's possible. There's too many nuances here. When people talk about, I get that a lot, even from the investors, et cetera, and they'll say, well, what about when such and such shows up? They're a multi-billion-dollar company in another industry. I'm like, well, I hope they have a couple of years to spend prior to launching their business, but they've got a bit to learn regardless of what they've done. So and when I think about partnerships, if you think in teams, if you start at teams and say, what is it, what is a company? A company really is a team, and the partnerships that it develops. Anybody can have buildings, anybody can have a fleet of trucks, technology to operate it all. The difference is the team. When Al was on the court, right? They all had the same basketball, the 2 rims on each end, wood floor. What separated was the team, and I very much believe in that. And I think having a diverse team within the business is a critical aspect in this industry.
Oh, absolutely. I'm loving what I'm hearing from you guys. The diversity, the inclusiveness, the team building, legacy, all of this is so important to this industry moving forward, and to shape it to look like the people that has built the industry overall. And what you guys are saying, I hope everybody out there listening is taking some good notes as you move forward in building. So as you folks move forward and you think about building businesses in a way that's both equitable and profitable, what do you look at from that? And so, AnnaRae, I go back to you. The only reason I'm going to the women first is because women first. So, AnnaRae, you and Salwa, you are the 2 women on the panel. So that's why I'm giving you the luxury and privilege.
Why don't you repeat the question one more time?
Okay. So as you move forward, building your business, What do you look at when you're thinking about an equitable business, a business that's going to be profitable? Because when you hear equity, a lot of people kind of shy away. Well, what do you mean by that? But from your perspective, what do you think about that when you are building your business?
Sure. Well, over the last 18 months, a lot has changed in the cannabis industry. And there has been in the capital markets a shift to looking more at profitability as opposed to growth. And that has created a level of realignment internally, I think, with a lot of companies about how focused we are on our aspirational projects versus how focused we are on our short-term operational goals. And so it has been a challenge to figure out how to make sure at every step of the way that we are operating from our purpose and are driving impact forward. I would say that on the one hand, that the cities that have equity programs have provided in many ways a helpful framework, because it has forced the issue with companies of, well, if you want to open a new business in San Francisco, this is the framework that you need to work in. And then that has propelled companies like mine to do the work of understanding how do we engage within the structure that exists and support the equity operator community and foster that. Equity in the more general sense, not specifically related to the social equity programs, I would say I look at in terms of what we were talking about earlier and with diversity, making sure that we have a lot of different opinions at the table, and also that we are thinking about the planet at the same time, equity in a greater sense. Like, how can we be a company that is driving forward our goals while also driving forward corporate social responsibility? And we look at that in terms of like, what are the wages that we're paying our staff? And is there equity in those wages? Is there gender disparity in those wages? And how did that happen? And if there was there like a broad diversity of candidates that were looked at for the roles, things like that. So, it's a really difficult and evolving thing, to be honest. And I think that we all need to just admit how hard it can be to get through the day to day, and also be making sure to be managing from a place of equity and heart all the time. So I'd say that it's about constantly having the hard conversations as well and being open to that. And so I that's what I tell people, is that please come to me. I am an advocate. There's lots of things that I won't see. There's lots of things that we are each individually blind to. And one of the things that I hope that I create a space for within my leadership is that people feel comfortable coming and calling me out and helping me to see my own blind spots. So.
Yeah. Thank you for that, AnnaRae. And Salwa, picking up on the same question that I just asked AnnaRae, where's your mindset?
I think for us, we're structured a little bit differently. MKSI Investments is a very, very small team. And when we pursue a partnership, it is just that, it is partnership, right? We are not in the business of being 100% owners of any particular venture we set out for. We're really there to support the operators. And I think where we are a little bit different than other investment companies is we come from cannabis and have been in it for a really long time, but also we respect operators and we try our best to partner because our appetite is large. We want to do a lot of different things. And so we understand exactly where we can lend support, what other companies have synergies when we approach a partnership, and there's always room on the table. For us, it's not a matter of owning a whole pie. It's just a matter of owning a piece of it and then really leveraging all of the different puzzle pieces to have it be as successful as possible. And what that philosophy has allowed us to do is partner with all types of people across the supply chain. And it's really created room to advance and grow. And then let's say you have a partner and it's a 50-50 partner, but then we need another piece or another distribution partner or whatever it may be. It just gives us the flexibility, that mindset to create bigger teams, bigger partnerships, to ultimately align and have the same goal and same vision, right? And then for I think it's also really important to note that before we go into any venture, we do a lot of financial analyses to understand exactly how much money is going to be spent, when it's going to be spent, and when we actually assume that money will be coming in. Then when it'll turn a profit, we add 6 months to that, and then we start planning accordingly. I think that really sitting down and understanding the financial nuances of cannabis makes partnerships go a lot smoother when everybody's expectations are more aligned.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm going to add a little twist to the question for the guys here. You know, we all know, for those who've been following social equity, that the state of the social equity programs have left a lot to be desired, and the challenges that that poses to you as business owners. So, Al, how do you think about social equity when it comes to your own business? I mean, do you have diversity inclusion statements, that shapes the way your company grows, your operations? How do you think about that in light of the fact that there will probably continue to be challenges as we move forward?
Yes, obviously we're very conscious of that. For me, with social equity, obviously it's a very important topic. To your point, a lot of these programs are flawed. They put these applicants in a position where they're kind of stuck taking, predatory investors and different things like that. What I've done is, I've used, pulled together some resources that I've had to be able to help some social equity applicants here in LA. Also, I have an incubator program that I launched at the top of this year or whatever, where I'll take younger people that just get into the business that need help with fundraising, building out decks, back of the house financial help, different things like that, so that we can put them in a better position to actually be successful. Because I think that that's the intention of social equity, right? You want to give people an opportunity to change their lives, right? And change the lives of the people like that are, their family members, their community. And, right now, being just take LA, right? It's expensive to be a social equity applicant, and we know that the social equity applicants 9 times don't have any money, right? They don't have any real resources. But you think about this whole process, it's been 3-4 years that I know some social equity applicants have been holding real estate to the point where they've lost their homes. You know what I'm saying? Because they refinanced their homes to get cash to be able to hold real estate, or, be able to get the architectural drawings done and different things like that. And the city still hasn't issued one license yet, So it's definitely a huge issue that we're facing. And, the thing where I feel like is people like us, all of these panelists on the call that have been successful, is for us to pay it back, and try to figure out what ways that we can come to these people aid to help them, have a good opportunity to be successful once they are licensed.
So what I'm hearing you say is you put your own infrastructure in place in order to get people ready that come from the social equity community in your business.
Yes.
Am I right in that assessment?
Yes. So part of our process here in LA, we had 60 people that were like pre-approved, right? And after we went through that first process, we ended up with 36. But through that entire process, I'm blessed to have a nice sized office here in LA, where we had seminars with them once a week, and we taught them the business from seed to sale. We taught them about metric. We taught them about 280E tax laws, all these different things, because the biggest thing is once these people get their licenses, we want them to be successful. And we know that the toughest part of being a license holder is, being able to navigate through all the regulatory issues, right? That's a main thing. So, the biggest thing I feel like with social equity applicants as well is the education side. You know what I'm saying? They have to be in position, in the right mindset, to be able to really be able to hold those licenses and be able to operate them to be successful.
Absolutely, because this does directly impact your business, from what I'm hearing you say. So it behooves you to make sure that you're bringing the best people forward as they move forward. And that's good to hear that you're taking that step. Michael, what about you? As we talk about social equity programs, that they're not all the same, they're having problems, but as it pertains to your business and the challenges that that can present, what do you do when when it comes down to your own business moving forward?
Yeah, to us, Yvette, supporting diversity and inclusion at Herbl is within the community is one way to honor the legacy of cannabis I talked about earlier. We are working with social equity brands and some social equity dispensaries. And as we speak, I think there's a lot of ways in which we can help them come to market. There, to Al's point, there's a lot to be learned in this industry. I think we have at least Herbl has a platform that a brand can come onto and come to market. Most of the social equity brands that we're in conversations with are on the smaller side, and that makes it even more difficult to get to market. With the with the network that we've built on the logistics side, I think we can be very helpful and supportive of getting those brands to market. And on the retail side, at the dispensary level, we've done quite a bit of work over the last year with a group of dispensaries that will be coming to market. The challenges are real, getting a social equity dispensary open. But we've been working behind the scenes with several of them, and going to be really supportive on when they do finally open their business. So I think using what we've built at Herbl to really support the social equity aspect of this industry is first and foremost on our minds. We haven't ever done anything external about talking about what we're doing, but we've done a lot internal, including we put together what we've dubbed a diversity advisory council, which really helps guide us. For me, it's going to be a really important part of how Herbl evolves, because I can't really look at it through my eyes for obvious reasons. I think we have to look at it through quite a bit of sets of eyes to make sure we're making the right decisions, and really supporting the social equity side in a way that really isn't being done today. I think it's in its infant stage, but I think there's a way to leverage the companies that are already existing in the industry to really help pull them through. As Al was saying, bringing folks in and training them, et cetera. It's such a huge component, because to be successful, you can't just launch in this industry. Everybody on this call knows well. So there won't be success if there's not support. So, I think Herbl is going to play a very big role in that support system.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. This is a leadership panel, and you folks are leaders in this industry in your companies. And with every leader, there are challenges. And face it, leadership really is relationships. It's managing people. Whether you like it or not, you have to manage people. So when you're faced with a challenge, I want you to kind of walk us through how you problem solve and how you make decisions, because you're going to get people who are resistant. They're going to bug back at you. So, you know what? I'm going to go backwards and reverse. Michael, why don't you take that first? Give you a break, AnnaRae.
Challenges in cannabis. That's a funny one. So, for us, Yvette, we really do identify the challenges because they seem to come at us pretty hard and fast over the last few years. We pull all the relevant teams together to identify the challenge and assess the challenge, if you will. And then really it's a question of listing all the actions and things that are needed, the needs necessary to get past the challenge. I think, and then, there's a modified approach that occurs post that moment, because you're identifying the challenge, you're putting the actions together, and then you're implementing those actions, and then you're hoping you're right. And you're going to be right on some and wrong on others. And then it's an iterative process where you need to constantly adjust. And because probably while you're managing that challenge, another one's coming your way. I think it really boils back to teams. I think this is the point on everyone was making about building the right teams. Challenges are going to come, and they're going to come at a pace. The one thing that we can do to I'd say remedy that is to build the right teams with the right culture. So when faced with those challenges, you can get through them together. I think that's going to be the key.
Absolutely. Al, same question to you. As a leader, challenges that you face with team members you bring on, partnerships. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's same thing. For me, it's really team driven, right? I have a very good staff of very capable people, right? And obviously we do weekly calls where any issues that we are having internally, we can all talk about. We can all figure out. Maybe somebody else can kind of step in and help you with a situation, different things like that. So we try to come from it, from that standpoint of us kind of all working together, obviously always for our one goal, you know what I'm saying, which is obviously, to being, the number one cannabis brand, in the world. So, it always comes back, to the squad. And, I always think about when people just always ask me, what was a good grower? Right. And, I always identify the good grower as a guy that can identify a problem and fix it before it becomes a bigger problem. Right. And, that this comes from, once again, just the team and staff that we have, that we all work together to fix things.
Absolutely. Thank you. I really love that. Again, inclusiveness. We cannot get away from that, whether that's leadership, whether that's simply a team you're trying to build, is just part and parcel of good business moving forward. Ladies, we have a different way many times of looking at challenges than men do. So I want to hear your approach, Salwa, to the challenges when you face them. What's your approach?
Sure. I think for me, when a problem comes to the forefront, usually I would like to assume that we would have kind of anticipated it because of our constant communication, just really trying to make sure that you're communicating with every level of staff. I don't communicate with just our upper level management. I try to go down the chain as much as I possibly can because I want to have a one-on-one relationship with as many people who work for us as possible. Again, the constant communication, trying to troubleshoot as much as possible, but really trying to predict and foresee what possible problems are going to be coming down the pipeline. And then from there, I really try to have my staff be a part of the solutions. So I ask them first, how are you good? How would you fix this? What do you think? And hear and download as much from them as possible. And then kind of work with every single one to be well, what about this? Well, what about that? And then from there, just really trying to mold a solution with them. Because I find if I come up with a solution on my own, I'm okay, this is the way it's going to go. I have a hard time having my staff adopt it because they don't understand why I did it or how that came up. And they might have a better or different idea. So as much as we can work together and really kind of have it be a true team huddle for all the problems that can arise, it tends to be easier to actually implement the solutions that we come up with.
Absolutely. Thank you. AnnaRae, same question to you.
Well, I was thinking I'll take it in a little bit of a different direction in that how can we avoid challenge as leaders? Because I think we heard a lot about how dealing with challenge is and I really think what everybody spoke to is sort of understanding scope and information and how important that is. I think that within our teams and as leaders, there's a lot of things that we can do to avoid internal challenge. And that's part of my own leadership philosophy. So in those last few minutes, I'll try to go over that a little. I think there's sort of three things that I like to think about with internal teams that can help avoid challenge and help us work together better. The first one is creating predictable structure and some type of a rhythm of business of the way that we communicate as teams. Does the team meet every single week? Does the manager have one-on-one communication? Things like that. That's what the predictable structure is. The second piece is about always having people understand the larger context to their work. So having no one ever feel that they're a cog and that they don't understand how the work that they do has a domino rally effect to the other people in the organization and the operation. And so how consequences play out based on our own individual actions and also how important we all are to the whole. And then third is about taking an individual personal interest in all of the individual people on our teams and understand what drives people and how we can foster growth in them. And that's different for all different ways for people. So I know we have limited time, we're getting to the end, but I think it's just really important that there are lots of things that we can do to create resilience in our teams. So challenges aren't things that break us, they're just things that are a part of our everyday way that we operate. And when our staff have those structures and have mechanisms, I think that we can get through things better. So.
All right, fantastic. You know, one question that I really want to ask you guys moving forward, Michael, what do you hope the California cannabis industry looks like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Take a quick stab at that.
5, 10, and 20. Well,
Uh-huh.
I think there's going to be a professionalization that occurs that I think needs to occur to some level to really professionalize the supply chain itself. There's a big difference, in my opinion, between corporate and professional. I'm pretty anti-corporate, so I think a corporate thought is not certainly something that we want to see leak into this industry. But I think professionalized, streamlining through the use of technology. I'd sure like to see in the next 5 years that taxes get lowered to ensure the cost of goods at retail here are below what people can buy it elsewhere. If I can dream for a second, Yvette, I'd like to think that every incarcerated person for a cannabis-related only crime is released, and maybe some good amount of those work for Herbl eventually. We have several today. I'd like to see that number increase exponentially. I think there's a real risk, in my opinion, when you look out and 10 years and beyond of the industry. Al brought up the way industries started and the way they are today. I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of work that needs to happen to guard against that. I think turning this into a big corporate machine run by X amount of large corporations would be a crime. So I think certainly the journey from here to 10 years out, and maybe even 5 years out, needs to be a lot of effort on that front. I think part of it's going to be regulatory, part of it's going to be professionalizing the supply chain and professionalizing in everything that we do, and modernizing, if you will, to make sure that every company that's here today can compete on those levels when those other companies arrive.
Fantastic. David, how much time do we have left? I know we're close to our ending time.
I mean, that's a great question. I'd love everyone to go tackle that. These are really great thoughts. So keep going and just wrap that up and you should be good.
All right, great. Al, I'm going to throw it to you. Tell me, what's your vision for the California cannabis industry for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Yeah, short and sweet. I mean, I hope that the social equity programs are running properly and it's successful, right? And, that's what I would like to see 5, 10, 20 years from now. Just, the people of color and people that were affected by the war on drugs having a seat at the table and, being successful within this obviously unbelievable, amazing opportunity.
Fantastic. Salwa.
Yes, and in addition to what everybody said regarding inclusion and obviously everybody being released from prison for nonviolent cannabis-related offenses immediately, I would say I would like to see sort of the chokehold of regulation be loosened up a little bit, and from us to kind of get away from a land use based process and make it more of a merit based process, because I think a lot of equity applicants are having a hard time keeping up with the expenses of a land use process. And I would like to see just cannabis businesses in the sort of a free market the way that other goods are.
Fantastic. And AnnaRae, I'll throw it to you for the last question there.
Awesome. I'm going to go with the utopian vision. I'm picturing a world where cannabis flows freely over state lines, over international borders, where we can go to restaurants and cafe and commune together and enjoy cannabis, that everybody who wants to participate can. Just that it's treated like everything else and that the stigma is lifted. So yes, utopia.
Fantastic.
That is what I'm looking for. Fueled by cannabis, maybe like a cannabis biofuel that hemp saves all of us, all of it.
I love ending that on the utopia vision that we have moving forward. So, David, I know our time is up on us, and I'm going to give it back to you and just say, have at it.
Sure. I mean, Yvette, do you want to share your 5, 10, 20?
Oh, absolutely. I'm with AnnaRae. You know, I'm looking at that utopian paradigm shift that we need to take where people are allowed to go and consume. You know, people are allowed to go to the lounges. People are extremely responsible. Social equity is surviving and thriving like it should be, creating legacy. That we have politicians who will get on board with what's happening and stop being a hindrance to moving forward, stop being lobbied by corporate interests, just stop all the nonsense, the corruption that's going on that I'm seeing. So this is what a utopian experience would look like to me, is that people are able to really respect this plant, to be able to use it medicinally, and it be accepted. You know, not everyone is going to accept what's happening with it, and that's fine too. But don't try to put roadblocks in the way of those who are really trying to do something that's going to benefit society. So that's what I would hope to see 5 years from now. If we could at least get it to that point, moving forward, it will be a piece of cake because we will have gotten the main people on board. And for those stragglers that want to come along, I would say to them, go to a lounge, sit down, chill, you know, relax a little bit, take the load off and understand what it's like. This is not reefer madness, people. You're not going to go crazy. You're not going to go out and kill people and rape people and all of that stuff that promotes. So I just want to see people use some common sense as we move forward and do what's right. So I'll throw it back to you.
That was awesome. Salwa, did you have a chance to share?
She did.
She did? Okay.
I did. Weed for the people. Weed for everyone.
For the people. Oh, short and sweet. Awesome. You know, and one thing I did want to bring up, you know, in Meadowlands, our backdrop is usually the rainbow flag from, you know, the Castro. And it's, you know, that rooted in compassion, rooted in love, but just rooted in just the diversity. And what brings me an incredible amount of joy is just like paging through and seeing everyone that's here. Really appreciate everyone's presence. A colorful rainbow is a better spectrum for all of us to participate in. And that was a beautiful panel. Thank you for everyone's leadership. Thank you for the moderation.